My brother demanded my house in a fire of jealousy. Angry because I bought a house before him. It all started on a crisp autumn afternoon. The kind where the leaves crunch underfoot and the air is filled with the scent of pine. I stood in my new living room. Light pouring in through the large windows, illuminating the bare walls that were soon to be filled with memories. This was my first house, and I had worked tirelessly for years to finally achieve this dream. Little did I know, the moment I shared the news with my family, everything would change. Matt was my older brother, the golden child of our family. He had always excelled in everything: school, sports, and his career. I often felt like I lived in his shadow. While he moved into a high-rise apartment in the city, I had opted for a modest home in the suburbs. But it was mine, and that felt like a victory. I was finally carving my own path. When I invited Matt to see my new place, I expected congratulations, maybe a celebratory drink. Instead, I was met with a cold glare as soon as he stepped through the door. "Nice place," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Thanks. I'm really excited about it," I replied, trying to keep the mood light. His eyes scanned the room, and I could feel the tension building. "How did you afford this? You've been working those dead-end jobs for years." I hesitated, not wanting to reveal how much I had sacrificed to make this happen. "I saved up. It's not like I bought it in cash, I have a mortgage." His expression darkened. "So you think you're better than me now?" "Better? No, that's not what I mean. I just wanted a place to call my own," I said, confusion creeping in. "You don't deserve it. I've worked hard for everything I have. And you just swoop in and take it all," he snapped, storming out of the house, leaving me stunned and hurt. From that day forward, things spiraled. Matt's jealousy transformed into an obsession. He began showing up unannounced, banging on my door, demanding to be let in. It felt like an invasion. Each time, he would lecture me on how I didn't deserve the house, how I had somehow betrayed him by achieving something he had not. I tried to reason with him, but logic was lost in his anger. "You're selfish," he shouted one night, standing in my living room, fists clenched. "You bought this house before I could, and now you're rubbing it in my face." "I'm not rubbing anything in your face. I just wanted to have my own space," I shot back, my heart racing. He stepped closer, his voice a low growl. "If you won't sell it to me, I'll make sure you regret it." Fear gripped me. I had never seen Matt like this. He was no longer my brother, he was a stranger consumed by rage and jealousy. That night, I locked the doors and slept with a light on. But the unease never left. As the weeks passed, Matt's behavior grew more erratic. He drove by my house, sometimes stopping to yell obscenities from his car. I began to feel unsafe in my own home, knowing that my brother had become my enemy. The idea of calling the police again filled me with shame. But I knew I had to protect myself. One particularly unsettling evening, I was watching TV when I heard a loud bang at the door. My heart raced as I peered through the peephole to see Matt's face twisted in fury. I opened the door, terrified. "Let me in," he shouted. "No. You need to leave," I demanded, my voice trembling. He shoved the door, nearly pushing it open. "I won't let you keep this from me. You think you can just walk away with everything?" Panic surged within me. "I'm calling the police," I yelled, reaching for my phone. Before I could dial, he lunged at me, grabbing my arm. "You don't get to do this." In that moment, I realized he wasn't just angry, he was desperate. Desperate to reclaim something he felt was taken from him. I broke free from his grip and slammed the door shut, locking it just in time. I dialed 911, my hands shaking. And within minutes, the police arrived. They escorted Matt away again. But this time it felt different. He was shouting, claiming I was the one who had betrayed him, the one who had torn our family apart. As the officers led him away, I saw a glimpse of the brother I once knew, a man broken by his own expectations and failures. Days turned into weeks, and I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that lingered in my home. I avoided family gatherings, knowing Matt would be there, his resentment a dark cloud looming over our interactions. My parents noticed the strain, but they didn't push. They knew that Matt's temper was volatile and that his jealousy ran deep. The holidays approached, and I braced myself. I had hoped that Thanksgiving would bring some healing, but it only intensified the tension. Sitting at the dinner table, I could feel Matt's eyes on me, burning with unspoken anger. He was distant, his jaw clenched tight as he forced a smile for our parents. After dinner, I found myself in the kitchen, cleaning up. Matt followed me, and I could sense the storm brewing. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "About what?" I asked, bracing myself. "About the house. I want it." I let out a laugh, thinking he was joking. "You can't be serious." "I'm dead serious. I want what's mine," he said, stepping closer, his anger palpable. "Matt, you don't own it. I worked hard for this, and I'm not selling it to you," I replied, trying to keep my composure. "You're just a thief. A loser who doesn't deserve it," he yelled, and I felt my heart sink. The man I once looked up to was now a shadow of himself, consumed by jealousy. As the weeks passed, Matt's behavior grew more erratic. He would drive by my house, sometimes stopping to yell obscenities from his car. I began to feel unsafe in my own home, knowing that my brother had become my enemy. The idea of calling the police again filled me with shame, but I knew I had to protect myself. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late, and I was watching TV when I heard a loud bang at the door. My heart raced as I peered through the peephole to see Matt's face twisted in fury. I opened the door, terrified. "Let me in," he shouted. "No. You need to leave," I demanded, my voice trembling. He shoved the door, nearly pushing it open. "I won't let you keep this from me. You think you can just walk away with everything?" I felt panic rising within me. "I'm calling the police," I yelled, reaching for my phone. But before I could dial, he lunged at me, grabbing my arm. "You don't get to do this." In that moment, I realized that he wasn't just angry, he was desperate. Desperate to reclaim something he felt was taken from him. I broke free from his grip and slammed the door shut, locking it just in time. I dialed 911, my hands shaking, and within minutes, the police arrived. They escorted Matt away again, but this time it felt different. He was shouting, claiming I was the one who had betrayed him, the one who had torn our family apart. As the officers led him away, I saw a glimpse of the brother I once knew, a man broken by his own expectations and failures. After that night, I made the difficult decision to cut ties. I didn't want to, but it felt necessary for my safety and sanity. My parents were devastated, caught in the middle of a feud they never wanted. Matt refused to talk to anyone, retreating into his anger, while I tried to rebuild my life, though the weight of guilt hung heavily on my shoulders. Months passed, and one day, as I was tending to my garden, I noticed a car pull up. My heart sank when I recognized it as Matt's. He stepped out, looking disheveled and worn. I didn't know what to expect. "I'm not here to fight," he said, his voice hoarse. "I want to talk." "About what?" I asked, wary. "I've been thinking a lot. About everything." "I realize now how twisted my thinking was," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "I was jealous, angry, but it doesn't have to be this way." I crossed my arms, my heart pounding. You can't just show up and expect everything to be okay. I know. I've hurt you. And I'm sorry. I thought if I demanded your house, it would somehow prove I was still better. But it was all a lie, he said. His eyes pleading. His vulnerability hit me hard. Maybe there was still a chance for us. But it would take time. I need time to process this, I replied. My voice steady but unsure. I'll wait. I just want to be a part of your life again, he said. Stepping back. Giving me space. As he walked away, I felt a flicker of hope. The road to reconciliation would be long and fraught with challenges. But maybe we could rebuild what had been lost. I still loved my brother, despite everything. And perhaps, in time, we could find our way back to each other. Days turned into weeks. And I found myself thinking about Matt more often. His confession lingered in my mind, battling against the pain he had caused. I started to reach out to my parents, trying to maintain some normalcy. They were hopeful, but cautious, urging me to protect my heart. One day, I received a message from Matt. Can we meet? I want to apologize properly. My heart raced at the thought of seeing him again. It felt like a step backward, but also a potential step forward. I agreed to meet at a local coffee shop. When I arrived, I spotted him sitting at a corner table, looking nervous. His eyes met mine, and I could see the weight of regret etched on his face. Thanks for coming, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Let's just talk, I replied, taking a seat across from him. For the next hour, we spoke honestly. He shared how he had sought therapy, trying to understand the roots of his jealousy and anger. He admitted he had struggled with feelings of inadequacy for years, especially as he watched others succeed while he felt stuck in his career. I thought if I had your house, it would somehow validate my worth, he confessed, tears brimming in his eyes. But I was wrong. I see that now. Listening to him, I felt a mix of compassion and wariness. It's going to take time for me to forgive you, Matt. What you did hurt me deeply. I understand. I don't expect forgiveness right away. I just want to make amends, he said, his sincerity resonating. As we continued talking, I began to see glimpses of the brother I once knew. He talked about his dreams, his struggles, and his desire to rebuild our relationship. I started to feel hope. But I was cautious. Trust takes time to rebuild, especially after betrayal. Over the following weeks, we met regularly. Slowly, we began to navigate the rough waters of our relationship. Matt introduced me to his new therapist, and I realized he was genuinely committed to change. I admired his determination to face his demons, but I still had my own to confront. Eventually, we agreed to meet our parents for dinner. The atmosphere was tense, filled with unspoken words and lingering hurt. But as we sat around the table, sharing laughter and stories, I felt a sense of healing. It was a small step, but it felt monumental. One night, as we were sitting on my porch reminiscing about childhood memories, Matt looked at me and said, I realize now that family is what truly matters. I let my pride get in the way. And I'm sorry. I appreciate that, I replied, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. I want us to be brothers again. But it's going to take time. I'm willing to put in the work, he assured me, a genuine smile breaking through. As the months passed, our relationship blossomed into something new. We laughed together, shared our struggles, and began to rebuild the bond we had lost. It wasn't always easy, and there were still moments of tension, but we faced them together. One day, while flipping through old family photos, I found a picture of us as kids, arms around each other, grinning from ear to ear. It reminded me of the love that still existed beneath the anger. I showed it to Matt and we both laughed, tears of joy and nostalgia streaming down our faces. Maybe we can create new memories like that, I suggested, feeling hopeful. Definitely. I want to be a part of your life. And I want you to be a part of mine, he replied, sincerity shining in his eyes. Eventually, we decided to take a family trip together, just the two of us and our parents. It felt like a rite of passage, a way to solidify our newfound bond. We drove to a cabin in the woods, where we spent our days hiking, fishing, and reminiscing about our childhood. The laughter we shared echoed through the trees, a testament to the healing power of love and forgiveness. In the evenings, we sat around the fire, sharing stories and laughter. It felt surreal, like we were finally free from the shadows of our past. I realized that while the scars of betrayal might never fully fade, they could transform into something beautiful, and understanding that our bond was resilient, capable of weathering storms. As the sun set on our last night at the cabin, I looked at Matt and said, "I'm proud of you. You've come a long way." "Thanks. And I'm proud of you too. You stood your ground when it mattered most," he replied, his voice filled with gratitude. In that moment, I knew that our journey was far from over, but we were on the right path. Together, we were building a new foundation, one rooted in honesty, vulnerability, and love. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, there's always a chance for redemption and healing.